which will now hear about a sacred site in Miami that has recently been unearthed in the middle of a $100 million project, in the way of a $100 million project. And here is Richard C. Hoagland from Miami. Richard, just very quickly, for those who don't know about it, maybe in Chicago, because they've missed out on a lot of this, what is this site, please, very quickly?
The site is, it looks like an ancient, and we're talking really ancient, several thousand-year-old geometric circle, very similar to Stonehenge, with stone foundations, stone holes cut in the bedrock at the mouth of the Miami River, which has 30 configurations equivalent to the 30 stones in the Sarsen Circle of Stonehenge itself. From our work and the work of Mike Morton and others, we now know this is on this global grid I spoke about at the UN back in '92, which links sacred sites like Stonehenge with other sacred places in the world. The local archaeologists started out thinking this was a Tequesta Indian site, meaning it was a few hundred to maybe 1,000 years old.
Now, in perspective, folks, they found this because they tore down something, right, Richard?
6 apartment houses last year that were built back in the late 1940s, about 47, 48. And when they tore them down, as part of the normal Florida state law, an archaeologist is supposed to be brought in to kind of do a cursory examination, see if there's anything of significance, basically indigenous peoples. And a surveyor named Ted Riggs spotted part of the arc of these stone indentations or stone cuttings in
and
the rock.
Probably had a real oh my God moment.
He did, and then he predicted there'd be a complete circle, and lo and behold there is. And if you go to the web tonight at Enterprise Mission or at arcbell.com, you'll see a stunning series of images, including some new ones taken today, of both the circle and the archaeology, as well as the meetings that are being held, commission meetings, etc. There's an ongoing, unfolding story, which every day, it's like writing a whole new chapter in a movie. This thing is like a movie.
It is like a movie.
Good guys and bad guys and villains and incredible heroes.
So here we have this possible American Stonehenge, or its equivalent. In other words, what could be a sacred site. We have
it is a sacred site. It's unequivocally sacred. The only question is,
we also have a developer who wants to build a $100 million project right where it sits.
Right on top of it.
And here's where the rub has come in. There's a bulldozer ready to bulldoze this thing down. You can see a picture of that on the web, too. And I guess now, fast forward, the first thing I saw that blew my mind, Richard, was that the stonecutter, who was going to go in and start to cut this thing up so they could move it, said he wouldn't do it.
All across the weekend, Joshua Billig, who was the stonecutter that Michael Baumann had selected with contract,
yes,
the best in the area, all right, his plan was, under contract, to come in and cut down about 4 feet all around this 38-foot ring, and then slice it underneath like a wedding cake, and take out the sections of the 38-foot circle like chunks out of an inner tube, about 30 of them, one for each of the major indentations in the rock, and then move it to some place, each one would weigh between 5 and 10 tons, and move it to some place where ultimately it could be reassembled, provided the rock didn't shatter.
What changed his mind?
Conscience. The marvelous thing, Mart, about having been here for the last 3 weeks is we have met some pretty amazing people. Well, perhaps the most amazing tonight is to find a gentleman, Joshua Billig, who basically runs the best stone cutting company in the area. And you know that old phrase, if you don't do this or do that, you'll never work in this town again?
That's right.
Well, this man single-handedly decided, after meeting with one of the Native American elders on the bridge, the Brickell Bridge overlooking the site at the mouth of the Miami River, which, by the way, is on our live webcam tonight, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
All right.
When he met with Bobby Billy, who was one of the Seminole elders here, he had a fundamental catharsis, and he said to me literally yesterday afternoon, he says, Richard, I've realized finally I would be desecrating something sacred, something I could not do, I could not live with myself. And I called up Michael Baumann, and I said, I can't do it.
Well, now, that must have been a moment.
It was a stunning moment because it has become the watershed, Art, I think, for the turning point of this whole affair?
Well, I think I meant in terms of classic conversations of all time. Do you have any sense of what conversation that went on?
Well, we were told, Josh said to me in this conversation yesterday afternoon that Michael eventually called him back, Mike Bauman, the developer, and said he understood. It was very brief and very short, and that was the end of the conversation.
Wow.
I saw him again today at the commission meeting, and he had agreed to come on and talk to the audience tonight, but as you know, we've had developing items, so we'll have to delay that till later in the week.
All right.
But this
Also
is a remarkable human being because he put conscience and personal integrity
ahead of
over money
and
position, and frankly, he is the hero of the hour.
I sure would agree with you, Richard. I sure agree. That was definitely heroic. Congratulations, my friend. You have generated, in my opinion, good karma, which will, in the long run, serve you better than had you gone ahead and done as instructed.
Well, he didn't really understand. He said what captivated him initially was the technical challenge, and as someone who works with geology and physics and all that, I can understand. And then as he talked to his friends, and he talked to, ultimately, the native elders who have gathered here from many parts of the country. We had Standing Elk who came in from Dakota for a few days. We've had Seminole showing up, and Miccosukee, and of course Robert Ghostwolf was here up until a few days ago. More and more people are beginning to understand what it was that I meant when I said in the New York Times yesterday, this would be like trying to move Notre Dame. This is not some damn lawn ornament that you can cut out of the ground and stick in a museum, as some have recommended.
Well, it's nice to run into a moral, ethical person every now and then. It gives one hope for the human race, so congratulations.
Well, the general tide of the support coming in from all over the world, all over the country, the tens of thousands of emails and faxes and all the support from the Art Bell audience, as well as what that has triggered in the way of national media. The first major stories ran this morning on CNN, finally.
Thank you, CNN.
ABC is now ginning up to do a story. We saw CBS here at the meeting this morning. There's discussion. Telemundo is actually carrying parts of this live now throughout South America, where indigenous peoples and the concept of sacred traditions, even if it's not your culture, appears to be in better shape than it is here.